quick note, we'll start around like 5 after, just to make sure like everyone, like at least we have good quorum to start. We'll just give you a couple more minutes, okay? Thank you.
Not able to hear me fine, right?
Yes, Vikram. Yep.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah.
And I believe I'll also have access to share my screen when it is time.
Yep, you will. Who is presenting, Vikram? You or Nagaraj?
Both of us. First part will be me, second part will be Nagaraj, but I think you can introduce Nagaraj first.
Okay. I'll introduce both of you guys and then you can start over. You guys can take turns, but let us know once Nagaraj is done, we can, give access to you, Vikram, so you can start presenting.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think you're on mute, Deepthi. Yes,
yeah.
We can hear you now.
I made Vikram as host.
Perfect. Can you also make me as host so that we both have access?
Yeah, you're also co-host now.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar and thanks for your support. So myself, I'm Deepthi. I'm serving as BOD from Charlotte. And we have our webinar community over here. Vijay, he's our webinar committee chair, and Srikanth Amidala, he's our webinar committee member. So today, Vijay will be facilitating the session today, and he plays a vital role in serving the session. And Srikanth, he's also taking care of the YouTube link and YouTube streaming. And he's from Maryland and he's serving the webinar committee. And I welcome our executive committee and our president Ajay Budati Garu and our Srinivas Sami. He's our secretary who is representing this meeting. with that, I want to give some quick logistics about this meeting today. So it's an uninterrupted session. So the main topic of today topic is our kids education planning, and our main focus is towards the college education. So here we have our presenter Nagraj Bitrugunta and Vikram Kirkera for the session today. I welcome Nagraj and Vikram, and I request everyone to be on mute. And for any questions, please raise your hand. However, I request all to ask questions at the end of the session. So yeah, Vijay, you can take over from now.
Vijay, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you, Deepthi. Just a quick logistics again, reminder, right? Please hold on to your questions. This is very crucial information that and experience that the team is going to share. Please hold off your questions and type in the chat window so that me and Deepthi can facilitate. So let's just get started. We have folks here. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining. Happy Shivratri, by the way. Let's start with Shivratri. Good news there. So I wanted to introduce today's presenters, Nagraj Vitragunta and Vikram Kirkera. I know Nagraj, personally and been working with him, and he has been very instrumental in the families helping on the financial education. They have a very big team that they work and helping teaching the financial concepts to the community for over a decade, actually. So they also work with the licensed people around USA.
Wait, did you say
Sorry, someone has a question?
I request everyone to be on mute.
Yeah. They're part of a world system builder. They're running a campaign to help with the financial literacy campaign. And that's where I got very interested to have them onboarded here to help us give the information about very specific topic about kids education planning. I here let Nagraj and Vikram take over and start the webinar session. Nagraj, thank you so much for Nagraj and Vikram. Thank you so much for your time. Please take over, and you can feel free to take over and start the session.
Yeah, thank you, Vijay. Thank you very much, firstly, for giving us the opportunity to present here. Thank you so much for the whole community as well. And firstly, I really appreciate your community on taking this. Sorry, there's some echoing. So on taking these initiatives and helping your community getting that kind of education, I really appreciate that effort. With that, I would like to actually introduce Vikram as well. So Vikram has been doing this kind of education from past a decade, more than a decade rather. So he has like 50 plus licensed members who are actually doing this all over US, and they've helped thousands of families. We all together help thousands of families. And the best part of Vikram is he's a great speaker. And usually most of the times when we're actually discussing or talking about financial concepts, they are more technical, or it's very difficult to understand for most of us. But when Vikram actually explains it, he explains it in a very easy way where everybody can understand. You're going to witness that firsthand today. So with that, I would like to invite Vikram to start the session. Thank you, Vikram.
Awesome, Nagraj. Thank you so much. Hey, I'm super excited to share the next few minutes with us all. I have been part of this campaign, like Nagraj mentioned, for over a decade. And I became part of the campaign purely because I had no clue of finances. And somebody invited me to a similar workshop like this. And then the ideas, the concepts, and the strategies that I learned completely changed my financial future for the good. And over a period of the next few years, I observed how finances were growing, at least my personal finances. And then I asked him, hey, these are phenomenal concepts. How many people in this country know about many of these concepts? I got a response that not a lot. It's probably 80-90% of the people do not know this. So I said, if that's the case, I want to do what you do. So that's how I got started. And now I'm just super excited and blessed and grateful for what it has done to my family. And I'm trying to do my best to spread it to the community. So today's topic is going to be very focused, and it's also going to be slightly interactive, not in the questions part, but I would like some responses from the group, so that there's also some energy. Before we get started, let's get through the favorite part of the presentation, which is the disclaimer slide. So the information in this presentation should not be interpreted as accounting, investment, legal, or tax advice. It's not an offer to sell or a solicitation to buy any security, insurance, or any other financial product. The workshop is for education purposes only, and our national campaign for financial literacy is to bring financial awareness and education. You're not going to learn everything during the course of this workshop, but the hope is you learn. I know you're super excited, but if you can please be on mute for the betterment of the audience, that will be great.
Deepti, can you please mute everyone else except the presenter? That will be better.
Sure. Yeah, I muted everyone.
Perfect. And you're able to still hear me, right?
Yes, Vikram.
Perfect. Okay. So the hope is you gain more confidence, you take action towards reaching your goals. And again, to help preserve the integrity and context, please do not take any photos, video, or record this workshop. So having said that, let's see. So little bit, we are on a campaign. You also see it in my background. It's called 30 by 30 campaign. What we feel is financial education should not be an option. In my opinion, it is a necessity. And our team is committed to educating and empowering 30 million families by 2030. So far, we've educated in excess of 2 million. We want to scale it up to 30 million over the next 7 to 8 years or so. And then again, welcome to this workshop. It's a very small portion of the workshop because of the time commitment that we have. But every day we are flooded with information. Many people offer financial advice, but are unlicensed or without industry experience. And those in the old traditional industry narrowly focus on one or two aspects of our finances. Let me explain what I mean by that. Many times when we talk to somebody who is in finance, either they are in investments, which means they really can't talk about insurances, or they are in insurances and they really can't talk about the investment world. But I believe these two are extremely interconnected, and that's why it's important to understand all aspects of our finances. So what we do is we help you take a total picture and a holistic approach, and our workshops educate and empower us to become our own money manager. Because I know that only if we control our finances is when we can actually control our future. So having said that, I'll share one of the fundamental concepts and then go into the meat of the presentation for today. But this is something that we teach in all the workshops, and Nagaraj can actually introduce the workshops towards the end. How to build a proper financial house. When we think of building a physical house, like a physical structure of a house, we build the foundation first, then we build the walls, then we place the roof on top of it. Same thing when it comes to a financial house. This is how it needs to be built. So the foundation is protection. Typically, all types of insurances like health insurance, car insurance, home insurance, liability insurance, life insurance, and all these things. Because if there is a crack in the foundation, our entire house can collapse. Second step is debt management, where us control debt as opposed to debt controlling us. Third step is emergency funds, where what we recommend is have about 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses as emergency funds, because any emergency may happen, especially with what's happening in the world today. If we lose a job, we'll find another job. It may take 3, 4, 5 months, but we'll find another job. But if we don't have emergency funds, it gets extremely stressful. And maybe we'll be forced to take the first job offer we get. So that's why 3 to 6 months, set it aside. And finally, investments, which is the roof of our financial house. And today we're going to be talking about concepts in investments. It's going to be specific to college planning, but it forms in the roof of our financial house, which is investments. Because if we need to grow our wealth, we need to learn how to make our money also make money. Okay, so we have a series of the content that we're going to be talking today is from workshop number 6, which is the last in the series. Typically in this workshop, we talk about all these 4 things: planning for the cost of higher education, pensions, rollover options, and understanding the tax impact. But for the time that we have today, we're only going to be talking on bullet point number 1, which is going to be planning for the cost of higher education. And in this, we'll talk about cost of higher education, what are the different sources, all those things, okay? In fact, in one of the workshops, in fact, the first workshop, we talk about setting short and long-term goals. Two of the most biggest common long-term goals that most people will have is number one, college, number two, retirement. So let's tackle college today because most people will experience college costs before retirement. Again, this is most, not all. So today we'll talk about college. So some of the questions that you might have, which most people have, is why do we want to save for our kids' education? Do we want to assume all the responsibility? Well, we'll talk about some options over the next few minutes. And how much do we want to contribute? And by the way, in the course of the next 10, 15 minutes or so, I'll be showing many, many numbers. So it's not going to be suitable for everybody. What will help over the course of the remainder of this presentation is I have a pen and paper handy, because every person's kid's age will be different. So take a pen and paper handy and write down what is relevant for you. Here, we're not giving you a fish. Our intention is to teach you how to fish. So some people may say, I don't want to save for my kids' education. Some people may say, I do, but I don't want to save all. So for you, whatever is relevant, I want you to jot it down for this presentation. So how much do we want to contribute for our kids' education? And number two is how much? Now that we know in total how much we need to contribute, what age do we start? Many times I hear that, hey, my kids are very young, they're 8 or 10, they have a long way to go. But we'll talk about some specifics today that will potentially give you some aha moments today. How much per month is needed to start? Is $50 a month enough? And then finally, where do we save? What is available? And how does it fit our overall financial strategy? So common questions. If you have any more questions, type in the chat window and we'll try to cover that. Okay, so there's a lot more coming over the next few minutes. First thing, rising cost of education. So here I want to open it up for people to just share what you think. How much do you think college will cost by the time your kids go to school? Does anyone want to share? Or if you want to type it in the chat window. How much do you think it will cost by the time your kids go to college? Okay, anyone in the chat window? It's completely varied, and I'll show you some numbers over the next few minutes. Bhaskar says $1 million. That's a private, it's a direct message to me. Sahika says $50 a year. Sayani says all part, okay. Srikanth says $350K. These are good numbers, ranging from, let's say, $50 to $1 million, and it completely depends. I'll give you some examples. My nephew went to Duke University 3 years ago, and I believe it costed him, or rather his parents, $82,000 in the first year. And then the second year, I think it was 86 or something. Then it's close to 90 in the third year. That happens quite a bit. Again, it completely differs from school to school. I'll give you some numbers in the next few minutes. But before talking about the numbers, let's talk about this. This is a quick trivia question. Do you know how much you need to raise a child until 18 years of age? We'll talk about college in the next few minutes. But how much do you think you need to raise a child from the time they are born until 18? I don't know if you have thought about it ever, but do you know how much it costs to raise a child until 18 years of age? Anyone in the chat window? Usually we get some funny answers here. $500,000, Shrikant says, okay. Anyone else? 25K. I don't know if it's per year or if it's for the lifetime. 100K, 60K, 100K. I see all these numbers, but let me show some numbers. Average, it takes, somebody says lifetime. So average, it's actually $233,000 per child. This does not include college. And by the way, if you look at the stats today, with inflation, it's about 280-ish something $1,000, and that's per child. So it's a lot. And by the way, this does not really include college. So now let's talk about college. I know for college, many people said it could be 40,000 a year, or 40,000 if it's in-state or something like that. So let me show you some numbers. So now that people will be sending their child to college after they've raised them for, let's say, 18 years, here are some of the statistics. By the way, like I said, it's varied. Public in-state, public out-of-state, and private is what we'll be looking at today. And by the way, this is the average 4-year tuition in 2022, last year. And let's say somebody has a newborn. And by the way, I have a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old. And a 7-year-old boy, 2-year-old girl. And I'll give you some numbers over the next few minutes also. But average 4-year tuition for public in-state is approximately 44,000. Out of state is about 134,000. And if it's private for 4 years, it could be approximately 155,000. By the way, this is all the universities put together, community colleges included, everything included. So again, that's why I said I want you to take a pen and paper handy, because some of you may think, hey, you know what? No, this may be the average stats, but I know my child, most likely I need to be prepared for my child to go to, let's say, Ivy Leagues or medical or engineering or something like that. It could be way higher. But again, these are stats all across US, and this is 4 years, not per year, average for 4 years, okay? However, I don't know if people know what the inflation is today. Inflation today is fairly high, but on an average for many decades, it's been 3 to 4%. College inflation has been way higher than regular inflation, which means the cost of tuition has been increasing fairly significantly. So about 5 to 6%, which means every 10 to 12 to 13 years, this number can double. We have seen that double every 10 to 12 or maybe 13 years. Okay, so having said that, if somebody has a newborn in 2022, in 18 years, by the time it's 2040, what could be the cost of tuition? For public in-state, could be $107,000. For public out-of-state, could be $324,000. And private could be $375,000. Again, you decide what it is going to be for your child and what you feel you need to save. University debt has reached $1.6 trillion. It has actually surpassed credit cards and auto debt totals. The average student graduating with a diploma has about 31,200 of student debt. So it's a rising problem that's happening in the economy nowadays. So this is a cheat sheet of what it might take for you to send your child to college. Let me give you an example. Like I said, I have a 2-year-old, which means in another 16 years, my younger one, my daughter, will go to college. So which means in 16 years, it'll be in about 16, 17 years, approximately $97,000 to $100,000 if it's public in-state. If it is public out-of-state, it's close to $300,000. If it is private for my daughter, it will be approximately $340,000 to $350,000. So whatever it is for your child, make a note of it, because you can divide it by the number of years and find out how much you need to save every year. I hope this is serving you so far. There is a lot more coming. So let's continue further. Now, knowing what you know, how much you need to save, depending on your finances, depending on your cash flow, your income, your expenses, all these things, how much you need to save per month. Is saving $50 or $100 a month enough? Well, let's look at some math. If you have 18 years, okay, so let's say somebody has a newborn of the number of people who we have on this call. Let's say somebody has a newborn, and you feel you need to save for a school that costs $107,000. Well, where did I get that 107 from? That is the public in-state. You may say, hey, you know what? No, I think I need to be prepared with public out of state. Well, then you do the math for yourself. If it is public out of state, it will be close to a $300,000. So let's go back here. If it is public in state, if it's $100 and something thousand, 18 years from now, you will need to save. If let's say the place where you save gives you 2%, you need to save about $417 per month. This is public in state. If wherever you save is giving you 5%, it's going to be $300 something per month. If it is 8%, then you need to save $238 per month. Now, if you say, no, I need to be prepared for public out of state at least, which is close to $300,000 plus, and let's say assuming 5%, it's going to be close to 3 times of 300, which is about 950 or something like that. So I want you to do the math so that you know and you are confident if about your students or your kids' finances. Now, this is for one child. If you have 2 children, plan accordingly. If you have 3 children, plan accordingly. If you have 4, good luck. So are you getting the most of where you're investing is the question, okay? So now let's continue. There is a lot more coming. One of the things that happens is many times because parents don't know about what options we have and all those things, because of lack of knowledge, planning or action could leave your children digging out from a mountain of student debt when they graduate. In fact, let me give you an example. I have my cousin who, as long as I've known her, she has been studying. She is a medical doctor. She is now a dermatologist, and her husband is an orthopedic surgeon. And when they finished their studies and then went into the real world, which was as of last year, between the two of them had close to $1 million in debt. So something to keep in mind. Many times what happens is parents use their retirement to pay for college just because they were not aware of what options are available for children's education or even the magnitude of what might college cost. So something to keep in mind. So now let's talk about funding. We did talk about how much it might cost. We did talk about how much we should save per month. I hope you had a pen and paper handy and you wrote down some of the numbers based on your children's age and where you want to send them to college. So now let's talk about funding. So broadly, there are 3 ways to fund higher education. Number 1 is personal savings, which we'll talk about a lot. Number 2 is needs-based financial aid. It's actually based on financial status. Depending on the financial status of the family, the child could get grants, work study, or student loans. And the third way to fund higher education is something called as merit-based financial aid. Basically, these are scholarships based on academic, athletic, artistic, or special interest merit. So we'll touch on all these things in the next few minutes. But one of the first things that many people might have heard of is something called as a 529 plan. And I've usually heard people say, I quite don't understand, especially if I'm on a visa, all those things. Hold on to your questions and towards the end, we'll try to answer them. But most likely over the next 2-3 minutes or so, most of the questions should become clear to you. So let's talk about this. 529 plans are qualified tax advantage savings plans, specifically to be used for higher education purposes. Okay. So when it comes to 529, there are 2 types. So let's talk about the first type first. The first type of a 529 plan is something called as a prepaid tuition plan. So I will read this paragraph first and then try to share this in the form of a real example. So credits at participating colleges or universities are purchased at current prices for future tuition. If the beneficiary doesn't attend a participating school, the plan may pay less. Let me explain in simple terms. Like I said, I have a 7-year-old son and a 2-year-old daughter. So for my 2-year-old daughter, I could actually, and by the way, I live in Seattle, Bellevue. So I could go to the state of Washington and say, hey, I want to purchase college tuition for my daughter, who's 2 years of age, today. So I want to purchase college tuition for my daughter who's 2 years of age today. What's the advantage? Because as we discussed, there's going to be inflation, college inflation, which is fairly high, about 5 to 6, maybe 7% sometimes. I don't have to worry about inflation because I would have prepaid the college tuition cost for my daughter today. That's the advantage. That's why it's called prepaid tuition plan. I'm prepaying the tuition for my kids in today's costs, okay? However, I'm sure some of you, if you're not muted, this question would have come up. What happens if my child doesn't go to a college in Washington? Well, if the beneficiary, which is a student or your child, doesn't attend a participating school, which means it could be in Oregon, it could be in Idaho, it could be in New Jersey, places like that, the plan may pay less. Okay, something to keep in mind. Now, the other thing, about 7 to 8 years ago, I was giving a similar presentation in Denver, Colorado. And when I brought up this topic of prepaid tuition plan, there were a lot of emotions in the audience. And I was like, why is the audience very upset about prepaid tuition plan? And here was the reason why. The state of Colorado had something called as a prepaid tuition plan. And many parents had saved for their kids' education or prepaid the tuition for their kids with the state of Colorado. And then when the child turned, let's say 16 or 17, for a few of the parents in the audience, the state of Colorado said, hey, you know what, with the rising cost of inflation, it's not sustainable for us to provide the tuition cost for your child at the same price where you bought 16, 17 years ago. So we are scrapping the plan. Here is your money back. Maybe they gave them 1 or 2% interest. However, that's not enough. So the parents felt betrayed, and they actually thought if they had saved it somewhere else, they could have got a way higher interest rate. And so that is something that could possibly happen. I remember in 2000s or even in 1990, basically 2000s, to make it simple, the first decade of the century, there were a lot of states that used to provide prepaid tuition plans. Nowadays, it's only a handful of states. Many of the states have removed this plan. So for people, I don't know the demographics of this audience, if you're all in Washington, Washington still has something called as a prepaid tuition plan. I think it's called a GET program. Many states are either getting out of it or they've already got out of it. Something to keep in mind. So now let's talk about the second type of a 529 plan, which is an education savings plan. So this is basically where account holders, most likely parents, but don't have to be parents, it could be grandparents or whoever it is, account holders open an investment account to save for future expenses, including room and board. In general, may be used at any college, university, elementary, or secondary schooling. When this says any college, I want to quantify that. Okay, so what that means is it has to be a US accredited college, which means, let's say, hey, my son or daughter, we're not sure, we are here on a visa, I'm not sure if this is going to work. Let's say you go back to India, the kids actually study in India. As long as it's a US accredited college in India or Europe or Australia, wherever it is, you could potentially use the money from your 529 to pay for their expenses. And there are very few US accredited colleges outside of US, but something to keep in mind. Now, I'm not saying you cannot use it. You can cancel the plan and take it out, but there will be taxes and penalty on the growth, which we'll touch upon in the next bullet point over here. So contributions, the effects of a 529 plan. We need to understand how this is going to work. So when it comes to the contributions, whatever you're contributing, it does not have any tax deductions at the federal level, okay? Which means it's after-tax money that you will put into a 529 plan. Some states offer tax deductions, so you need to check with your state for restrictions and requirements. If people are here from Washington, there's anyway no state income taxes, so there is going to be no tax deduction, but something to keep in mind, okay? However, let's talk about withdrawals. I did touch on it a minute ago. If it is not used for qualified education purposes, or let's say the child goes and studies in a different country, which is not a US accredited college, you can take it out, but the withdrawals will be subject to state and federal income taxes and a 10% federal tax penalty on the earnings. Something to keep in mind, okay? And then financial aid, we'll touch upon it in the next few minutes, but if you were eligible to get a financial aid, if you invest in a 529 plan, it will generally impact, and when I say impact, it's adversely impact, negatively impact a student's eligibility to receive need-based financial aid. Why? Because the government will say, hey, this is for people who have a need. It seems like you have already saved for your child in a 529 plan. So we are going, if you were to get aid, you will get less aid. So something to keep in mind. Again, as with any plan, be sure to understand its restrictions and how it fits into your overall strategy. There may be other options. And by the way, Nagaraj will touch upon one other option. Again, no solution fits everyone. I'm not saying this is good or this is bad. As long as we understand it, it's comfortable and it's suitable for our situation, it can work. So again, I want to make this very clear disclaimer. There should be a suitability need. People need to understand it and be comfortable with it. So there may be other options, and Nagaraj will touch upon one other option when saving for higher education will be better suited for your situation. So let's talk about financial aid. How is financial aid calculated? There is this formula, cost of attendance minus expected family contribution, and whatever the difference is the need, financial aid need. And how do you get it? And in order to get more financial aid, you need to properly reduce your EFC, which stands for expected family contribution, and decreasing or reducing your expected family contribution increases your child's need-based aid from federal, state, private, and college-owned resources. Especially for federal, there is a form that we need to fill, which is called FAFSA, which stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Many people don't apply assuming that they don't get it, but it's a free form. You might as well apply and check. So let's talk about merit-based financial aid. There are millions of merit-based scholarships offered by companies, schools, and organizations in nearly every category you can think of. Some tips: apply early, be proactive, be sure to meet the requirements, apply to safe, target, and reach types, and prepare in advance. Again, one thing to keep in mind is whether you save money or not, lack of proper planning can cost you more. Lack of planning for 4 years can cost your child a lifetime. So let's actually talk about, I know we spoke about savings so far. Nagaraj will touch upon one other option where somebody could save, but I do want to touch upon the other aspect, which is preparing for college. Yes, saving is important, but also preparing is important. What do I mean by that? Well, let's go through this slide and then I'll give you my example. Knowing what to do after high school is more than just paying for higher education. For example, all these things need to be kept in mind for college preparation, like FAFSA, admissions applications, assessment, letters of recommendation, deciding which college, visiting campuses, all these things. And after all that, what if the student chooses a different path? Like they want to be an entrepreneur. Maybe they want to go into a trade school or a military school or work right away. Let me actually share my example. I did my bachelor's of engineering in electronics and communication engineering. So why did I do that? I'm sure many of you will resonate with this story because in the neighborhood where I lived, the 2-3 houses on my right, their kids studied engineering. 5-6 houses to my left, they did engineering, so I did engineering, okay? And then I vividly remember when it was probably 3-4 in the morning, one fine morning, I was deeply sleeping when I was still in my high school. And then my dad came and frantically woke me up. And he said, hey, Vikram, I want you to wake up, study. And I'm like, Dad, it's only 4 o'clock in the morning. He said, the person in the opposite house, the student who's also your age, he's actually going and studying at 4 o'clock. I'm like, oh God, he's a crazy guy. But anyway, next day I went and spoke to him. I'm like, hey, what were you doing? What were you studying at 4 o'clock? He's like, 4 o'clock? My dad actually used the restroom at 4 o'clock. That's why I think the light must have been on. But I'm sure you can resonate with some people. But the point is, I did electronics and communication engineering because of societal pressure. And then after that, I worked for a call center. Then I worked for an IT company. Then I went back to call center. And then I did my master's in quantitative analysis. Don't ask me what that means. I'm trying to figure that out. And then I worked for a management consulting firm. Then I worked in healthcare. But now I know my passion is in finance, business, and leadership. But it took me probably a couple of decades for me to realize what I'm good at or what I want to do. I don't want my kids to go through a couple of decades to realize what they potentially will be good at. And and like I said, I have a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old. When my children are, let's say, 14, 15, 16, 17, I'm not going to be an expert in any of these, nor do I want to be an expert in any of these. So why am I sharing this? Because had somebody told me or asked me a few questions when I was finishing high school, my life would have been very different. And my parents probably didn't know to ask. I just followed what the society was doing. And I also know many students getting into nursing, getting into the medical field. After 1 or 2 years, they come back and say, Dad, Mom, I don't think I like what I'm doing. I need to change majors. I'm sure you know some of you who have done that. A lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of money has been wasted. So we have, and Nagaraj will actually touch upon this in the next few minutes, but we have partnered up. We're just a platform. We have no products, no solutions. We're just educators. We want to teach the community about many of these concepts. So we have partnered up with a couple of nonprofit organizations where there will be a coach who will sit with the student, who will sit with the parent and educate them on what is supposed to be done in order for them to choose the right career, choose the right university, choose the right campus, basically every single thing. And if somebody is interested, talk to Nagaraj. He's helped quite a few families with that program, and he would help. Now, let's shift gears and go back to savings for the next about few minutes. So savings, I know I touched upon 529. I do want to turn it back to Nagaraj. Nagaraj, like I said, he has helped many families in different parts of the country. One of the people who I know has a good heart, goes out of his way to help everyone. So he's going to touch on one other aspect of a few more concepts, and then he'll also potentially share a little about the campaign also. So Nagaraj?
Yep, thank you, Vikram. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. I think I know that those are a lot of concepts. So I just wanted to quickly touch upon what is the other way to actually save for your kids' education. So before I get into that, I just wanted to give you a basic concept especially in the field of personal finance. So it is called X-curve concept of wealth and responsibility. So what does this mean? So this means it shows a relationship between taking care of your responsibilities while building your wealth. So usually at the age of, let's say 25, what would be our wealth? So most of the times, unless you have inherited something from your parents or grandparents, we just would have started our jobs and just started building our wealth. So usually at the age of 25 to 35, most of the exciting life event happens. Can one of you tell me what is the exciting life event that happens during this age period? Okay, then I'll tell that. So usually it's marriage, right? So where we are super excited, we wanted to marry a woman of our dreams or a man of our dreams. So and once we get married, we will have kids, we'll have our first kid, we will have second kid, and sometimes accident happens and people have third kid too. And at least in my case, first one itself was an accident. So usually what are we doing here? And at the same time, sometimes you also buy a house and get into that loan. So what is happening here during this younger age, we are building a lot of responsibilities and we have very less wealth. But whereas as we grow older, what happens? If we do right things with our money, our wealth grows. And at the same time, our responsibilities comes down. So while older, your responsibilities are less and you have a decent wealth. So that's why you're more secure. But whereas when we're younger, have kids and a lot of responsibilities, we are generally less secure. So that is the reason, especially when we are younger and have a lot of responsibilities, protection of our family is key. When I say protection, life insurance is key. So as Vikram was sharing, the fundamental concept of our building the financial house, protection is key. So that's why when we are younger and have a lot of responsibilities, we should have life insurance. And that is one of the fundamental things which we have to do. And especially we see a lot of GoFundMes going around. What is the reason? Because they didn't do that fundamental aspect of it. And especially when our own ones or friends or families go for GoFundMes, it is really embarrassing. So that's why life insurance is key. So why am I talking about this? So let me go back to the core topic of kids education. I wanted to show you how a life insurance plan can help you fund your kids education. So whatever Vikram was saying, so if you Vikram was sharing, right? Like based on the number of years your kid has to go to college, this is the amount which you need. Let's say there is somebody who has a newborn, they have about 17 years to go to college, which means, and on average, if they go to a public or a private, maybe they might be needing about 300K. And if you see whatever Vikram was sharing, like let's say somebody want to save somewhere and have 300K by the time they get to their kids into college. And let's say considering getting a average rate of return of 5%, which means you need about 300K for just to save 100K, which means 100K into 3, you might need about 900K or 950K. So now let's see how an insurance plan. So usually in a broad category, you have two types of insurances. One is called term insurance. The other one is permanent insurance. So term insurance is where it is only covered for the risk, but whereas in permanent insurance, you are covered for the risk as well as you build some cash flow. So now let's see how that particular permanent insurance can help funding our kids' education. Okay. So now let's say there is some responsible dad, like most of you has joined today. So let's say at the age of 30, he has a kid. Now let's say he wanted to fund 300K for his kids' education. Now if we start funding whatever we are thinking about $950 per month, if you take 100 less, maybe 850 per month, about 9,900 every year, if we start funding towards this policy, towards a permanent insurance, he can fund his kids' education. So God forbid something happens to him right on the day one, even their beneficiaries will get this amount, which means with or without him, their kid will go to college. So that is what somebody has to plan, where you consider all those risks as well. So now let's say if he keeps funding for 17 years of the 9,900, he can withdraw 75,000 every year for 4 years of his kids' education up to 300K, which means he has funded about 168K and then can withdraw about 300K for kids' education. And even after withdrawing 300K, their family will still have some life insurance left, which can be left as a legacy where we all strive for it. And most of the times we think that what if my kid doesn't go to college? Now I've funded so much, I have built so much, but what if my kid doesn't go to college? Let's say he turns out to be an intelligent guy and has all the funding or he chose entrepreneurship. In that case, the responsible dad can actually use that amount for himself. Let's say he has funded for that 17 years, but his kid didn't go to college. So then he can actually withdraw 70,000 every year for his retirement. From the age of 61 to the age of 80, he can withdraw 71,000, almost $6,000 every month. So he has funded about 168K, but withdrawing about almost $1.4 million out of it. So it's an amazing retirement plan. Like let's say if you're not able to use it for kids' education, even then you can use it for your retirement as well. And especially for us, most of us here, I know there will be a lot of people who are on H1s and would be wondering, so what if, should I be doing it on a 5-9 plan or should I be doing here? But what if I go back to India? Let's say some responsible dad who is on H1 has actually started funding towards this, aiming for that at least his kid will go to college within US. But unfortunately, if they had to go back to India, let's say he has funded about 4 years and they have ended up going back to India. Even in that case, just funding for 4 years and leaving that policy as is, he will have a legacy created of 338K for his whole life, which means even if something happens to this responsible dad, this family will get this minimum amount for their whole life. Not only that, but if you look at, let's say at the age of 60, he needs some amount for himself. So either he can use about 200K. He has funded about just 39K, but he has about 200K in that policy to use it for himself, even back in India. Or leave that, still their family will have that legacy. Where most of us really work hard to leave that legacy, right? So even at the age of 75, if something happens to that responsible dad, their family will get 600K. Even not that, even if he needs something where he has to use it for his own purpose, they'll have about 625K. So this is one of the way where you can actually plan for your kids' education and also use it for different ways. So it depends on case to case. It's just an example to show how this can help funding your kids' education or use it for other purposes too. With that, I would actually quickly want to touch upon the other things, especially on why we do this and who we are. I'll just take a couple of minutes to quickly wrap up. I know we are out of time. So as Vikram was saying, we are part of a campaign called 30 by 30 campaign, where we want to educate 30 million people by 2030. And we have about 300 financial centers all over US where we are training people to help reach their financial independence. So as part of that, we teach all workshops all over US. So these are the 6 series workshops where we teach on building and savings wealth, and how to come out of debt, and what is the proper protection, and to remove the or the different misconceptions which people have on insurances, your health and wealth, understanding accumulation strategies, more of the what are the different investment strategies which we have, and fulfilling the long-term goals. And this is the topic where we really talk about both kids education as well as the long-term planning. And we just showed you a portion of it in the interest of time. So if you are interested in these workshops, you can reach out to me. I can help you give that link, and you can attend to all those workshops. So not only that, so as we said, we are a WSB community where we wanted to empower families in properly planning their financials. So we're already about 80,000 people, and we definitely can't do this 30 million education without needing people. So if you're somebody who's interested in this, we would welcome. Please join us. If you're somebody who's interested in teaching this, helping families, you can join our class to fight debt, financial insecurity, and financial literacy. Thank you so much. And if you are interested, please contact me. This is my contact number, my mobile number, and email. Make a note of it. You can reach out to me anytime. Thank you. Back to you, Vijay.
Yep. Thank you, Nagaraj. Thank you, Vikram. This is a wonderful session, I would say, and very interesting scenarios that we have understood. Let's quickly get into the question and answer sessions without even wasting a time. Did you have the questions already offline, or do you like anyone would like to ask? Please raise their hand so we can facilitate that.
Yes, Vijay.
Yeah, let's.
Questions from Chandra. Let me start with Chandra first. So he asked about the question like, can anyone open this 529 plan, or there are any restrictions for H1Bs, and what are the different scholarships available?
Also, good question. So yeah, I see the second question also, but let's address this question first. So can anyone open this 529 plan? It's basically nothing but an investment account, and we can, like any other investment account, like IRA, Roth IRA, anybody can open it. If you're on H1B, potentially there might be something called as basically a separate form where the financial institution might need 2 forms of identification. But to answer your question, anybody can actually open this, okay? Different scholarships available. Again, it's a broad question. It depends on if it is need-based, if it's merit-based, and also many organizations could provide scholarships. So that completely depends on from one organization to the other. And then if someone is staying on H1B and whose kids goes to college very soon, how a parent must prepare financially? I'm assuming that was a question before we started to talk about the topic, because I think we did cover most of it, irrespective of if you're on a visa, if you're on green card, citizenship. I think the key is savings, because one of the most important ingredients to building wealth is time. Many times, because we procrastinate, we lose out on time working for us. It's not only us working for money, we also need to give time or money the time to grow. So irrespective of where we are, whatever visa we are on, I believe savings must be part of everyone's thought process. Let's see. And can you give me an example of this insurance plan? Some more reference would help. Again, like I said, we just want to introduce the concept here so that people know that there is also something, if it is designed correctly. And by the way, we're not saying this is good or this is bad. It's just a concept as a reference point for you to know, okay, you can also start exploring that idea. And every person's situation is different, which means your child may be a newborn, your child may be 10 years of age, your child may be 15 years of age. So is it suitable for everybody? No, but if you have time for your child to go to college, what I mean by that is if you have 6 years, 10 years or more, these plans can work really well if there is a need for insurance, if it is suitable, if it is affordable, and if the plan is properly designed. So again, that's a very specific question. I would recommend talk to maybe a qualified person who you might know, or if you don't have anyone like that, talk to Nagaraju and he's an expert in that also. Where can we get the information about merit-based scholarship? You said variety of sources. I don't have any reference as such, but I do know that many organizations could provide. Unfortunately, I don't have, because these keep changing every now and then. And so I don't have any idea on that, but I do know it exists. So something to keep in mind, but also need-based, many people have some misunderstanding that you may not qualify. I do know people who have a lot of assets, lot of income, but they still qualify for federal aid. Topic for another day, but I think you need to design and structure the finances in a certain way. So Bhaskar asks, thanks to the presenters, which agency or company is secured to start life insurance plan? Is any trusted federal bank or financial institution to start life insurance? So I'm assuming that it's when you say secure, I'm assuming, Bhaskar, you meant if it's a bank, there's usually FDIC insured. I'm assuming, what about these insurances? If that's the question, let me address that. Like how banks have something called as FDIC, which insures a portion of whatever is there in the bank, in the event of a bank, were to be bankrupt. Same thing, there is something for life insurance companies also. It's called State Guarantee Association, and every state has got its own version. But like how banks have it, banking industry has it, life insurance industry also has it. And by the way, in this country, there's not a single life insurance company that's gone bankrupt. If any of the company goes south, the larger companies will actually buy them out. So, but there is a fallback option, which is the State Guarantee Association. Would you rather leave your kids property and inheritance, or perhaps tuition money for their kids? Would you rather pay for their kids' college or a home down payment that is given them? That is, give them money around their graduation age or around your retirement age? Again, like I said, it's a very specific question. It depends on your experiences, your upbringing. Every person thinks differently, and we don't want to bias. We are not biased towards or against somebody's thinking. Again, there's no right or wrong way to think, but whatever suits you. If you think, hey, you know what, my parents didn't take care of my education, so I turned out fairly okay, and I want to do the same thing, that's your choice. Again, like I said, I can't answer that question because it's very specific. But if you have anything, if you want to add more to the chat, we can potentially discuss. Or even better, talk to somebody who's your financial advisor. They could help you think or direct your thoughts in the direction that you feel is going to be suitable for you. And then the admin asks, can 529s be actively managed? Do I need an active account manager? What's the Uniform Gift to Minors Act? Okay. 529s can be actively managed. do I need an active money manager? Well, in 529 investment plan, which is the second type of 529 plan that we discussed, it can be broken down into two more. One is something which you can directly go to the state and say, hey, I want to get a 529 plan. You can go to Idaho, you can go to New Jersey, whichever state, and you can buy it. Or you can say, hey, I don't know how these work. I need help in the investments and to monitor the investments. I'm not an expert at it. There's also advisor-based 529 plans. So I hope that answers your question. Uniform Gift to Minors Act is something called as UGMA. That's basically account in the child's name. And I believe once they turn 18 or 21, whatever the legal age, they can take control of that account. But that will be counted towards financial aid calculation. So something to keep in mind. And then, do you have financial advisors or agents that you refer to work with to help with specific examples of finance plans you mentioned? Well, we are educators and we're also licensed to actually sit with families and give some ideas on specific things that could be suitable for them. Like I said, no one shoe fits everybody. Same thing when it comes to finances. No one plan will be suitable. But I know Nagaraj is licensed and he has helped many, many families in different parts of the country. And I think he did post his contact information and you're welcome to contact him. Wonderful session. Learned some new things today. Do you guys provide one-on-one advisory to specific situations? Yes, we do. So I think those were the questions that I saw in the chat window. If anyone has any more questions, please, you can go ahead and type and we can take it.
Like we have.
And I hope this was helpful.
Yeah,
if anyone can also share what you got out of this presentation, one thing, that would be great.
Yeah, someone was asking about the combination plan of 529 and its alternatives.
Yeah.
Please suggest. Yeah, go ahead, Nagaraj.
Yeah, we can give you all those details unless you have a financial advisor, they can work with you and help on giving those details. If not, you can reach out to us. We can help you on giving all those details too. About workshops, what is the duration and fees? So duration is about 60 minutes. There is no fee. As we said, this is a campaign which we are running. It's free of cost. You can join that workshops. Just reach out to me or reach out to us. We'll give you the link where you can join the workshop. Sure.
Yeah, Nagaraj, if you can share the contact details, that would be great. And yeah, the duration and fees, it's a good point. We do these workshops so that the community can benefit. And we sincerely believe that not only this, but many concepts when it comes to finances should be taught in schools. Unfortunately, it's not. Should be taught in the workplace when we join our first job. Unfortunately, it's not. So that's the reason why we are doing our best to take it to the community. We are teaching a lot of schools. We're teaching a lot of universities and workplaces. So we don't charge anything, at least for these workshops. But talk to Nagaraj and he can give information about what workshops and when to attend. Nagaraj, you want to share your screen and post your slide with contact again?
For sure, yeah.
All right.
Hey, there it is.
Anyone has any last minute for today? All right. If not, I hope this was really helpful for you guys. Again, the intention of this webinar committee is to help you guys, bring awareness on different aspects of life, and this financial is one aspect. And we thought like we will help you bring the education planning related. There's a lot to take and consider here. It's just a couple scenarios I believe Nagaraj and Vikram have shared. But if you have more questions, please contact Nagaraj. His contact number has been shared. If you guys did not get his contact details, please reach out to myself and Deepthi so we can help you get connected with him. I personally know Nagaraj and he has been helping several families and he can get to a better understanding and actually set up a path for you guys, successful path for you. So please contact Nagaraj. He's a great person. And I appreciate you all taking time for joining today. And special thanks to Nagaraj and Vikram for taking time to do these webinars. And I love your campaign of 30-30. It's a big goal, and we are happy to be part of that big goal as well. I appreciate for your time. I hereby actually request my executive council member, Srinivas Saini, to give a quick word of thanks, and then we can wrap up. Saini Garu, please.
Yeah, Vijay, thank you. And it's a wonderful session. Unfortunately, I was driving today. I could not really focus much, but everything went well. Technically, we did, the web team did a good live streaming session, and the topic seems to be very good. And thank you, webinar team. Thank you, Vikram. Thank you, Nagaraj, for the wonderful session. And thanks to all the participants who joined today's call. And yeah, with this, let's end the session. And thanks to all again.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Vijay, again for this opportunity. Thank you, Sai Garu. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for both of you guys. Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course, you're welcome.
Thank you, Deepthi. Thanks for driving this session today. I appreciate it. And thanks, everyone. You guys have a great rest of the day. Bye.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.